Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to the Data Science Hangout style Q&A. It's not a real Data Science Hangout. We are here speaking with our amazing virtual talk panel speakers, and I'm joined by my co-host today, Rachel Dempsey. Rachel, would you like to say hello?
Hey everybody. I am actually in Atlanta this week, so I'm happy I get to be here for both virtual and in person. So if anyone happens to be in person too and is joining from their hotel room, come say hi to me later today at the reception too. But so nice.
Awesome. Yeah, we all want to know how Rachel's Wi-Fi is doing at the hotel. Everyone's like,
It's great. So far so good, but maybe I shouldn't have said that.
okay, we will say no more about that. I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Libby Heeren. I'm a data community manager here at Posit. You probably know me from being the host of the Data Science Hangout. I wanted to give a quick intro just in case anybody didn't join for the talks, but they are joining now. And just in case you're going to be very confused, but we're hanging out with our speakers for the talks. I would love to go around in the order that our speakers gave their talks and just do a quick intro. Your name, reminder of which talk you gave, and something you like to do for fun. So, Ryszard, we'll start with you.
Sure. Hey everybody, I'm Ryszard Szymanski. I'm a staff engineer at Epsilon, and my talk was about deployment strategies. I'm based in Warsaw, Poland, and the question was what I like to do for fun, right? Or
Yes,
okay, enjoy reading and baking.
reading and baking. Ooh, me too. All right. I will go next over to Kennedy since he was the first speaker for Kennedy and John's talk. Kennedy, can you say who you are, what talk you gave, and something you like to do for fun?
Hello, I'm Kennedy. I'm from Nairobi. What I like, pardon, what was the second question?
What talk you gave,
Oh,
which was,
I give the talk on Amberix, and for fun, I like going to the farm. Yeah, interacting with animals and stuff. Yeah.
oh, that's awesome. Oh, I love that too. We have a ranch in my family, so lots of animals as well. Next is our co-speaker for that talk, John Coene, if you want to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Libby. Yes, I co-presented Ambiorix with Kennedy, and I am John. I'm based out of Switzerland. What I like to do for fun, well, honestly, not much else than that. Open source, family. Otherwise, that's about it.
That's enough. It's a lot. Thank you, John. Let's go to Dylan. Dylan, can you introduce yourself, what talk you gave, and something you like to do for fun?
Yes, hello everyone. My name's Dylan Pieper. I gave the talk on LLMs, and one thing I like to do for fun, it's kind of unique, is paragliding. It's a pretty big European sport, but also in the United States as well. And yeah, so I like to fly and have fun flying.
That sounds incredible and terrifying and dangerous. Thank you, Dylan. And next we have Gina. Gina, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Gina Reynolds. I give the talk on ggplot 2. Calling in from Denver. And something I like to do for fun is flying kites. So the safe version.
The safe version of paragliding. That's awesome. Well, we have so many questions in Slido. If you did not get to get your question in, Rachel put a link in the chat, in the Discord chat, because reminder, again, I said this already for people who were here before, but if you weren't, we are asking questions in Slido for all of our speakers, and we're doing all of our chatting in the Discord server. The Zoom chat will be disabled. Yes, we are aware that it's disabled. And honestly, chatting in Discord is way more fun because this chat here in Zoom wouldn't let us use any emojis or GIFs at all. So we are going to head over to the Slido and find some questions for our guests now.
Libby, I forgot to introduce myself the way that you set it up for
Oh, you
everybody.
did.
Say it like that too. But hi, everybody. I'm Rachel Dempsey. I lead customer marketing at Posit. And so I mentioned I'm here in Atlanta right now for the conference, but I'm usually in Boston. So if you're in Boston, would love to catch up with you there too. What do I like to do for fun? It's usually around finding live music somewhere.
Ooh, nice. Yeah, Rachel plays guitar. We have lots of musicians in our data science hangout community. Okay, I wanted to start with a question for Rich because you gave your talk first, which meant I had to scroll to find it. Not all of these questions have the names on them, so forgive us if you did not put the name for who the question is for. It might take us a while to like figure out who it's for. And the question is, let's see. It's from Nathan, and it says, I love the blue-green deployment approach, but how would you recommend doing it with self-hosted apps without inadvertently creating published URLs like my-blue?
Okay, that depends on what you mean by self-hosted. If that's, I don't know, a virtual machine that you're hosting somewhere in the cloud, you can think of like one, check if your provider doesn't give docs on blue-green deployments on that particular service. Or if you're really doing a lot of things manually, you can look into setting up your own load balancer and point to your load balancer and then do the switching on the load balancer level.
I wish that I knew anything about load balancing. I feel like that's above my shiny pay grade, but that's a whole big topic. Nathan, maybe you can find Rich on Discord as well. We are all in this virtual day events channel together and get a little bit more details later. Thank you, Nathan, for the question.
Do you want to just go back and forth here? Or
Yes, that would be great.
Cool.
It would be great if we could find a question for Kennedy and John.
Absolutely. There's a question that's been upvoted quite a bit here for Kennedy, and it was, can someone build a front end using Shiny components and use it with an, I was practicing saying the name, Ambirex backend. So can someone build a front end using Shiny components and use it with an Ambirex backend?
Well, yes, you can use say like Shiny components, for example, action buttons, even BSlib components, the drop downs and whatnot, they'll still work. But then that would kind of beat the purpose because it's like you have this framework here, and then now you're bringing in a whole new framework just so that you can use the action buttons. Also, it doesn't make a lot of sense to bring in like the whole framework because the way Shiny works is they are what? They're supposed to be reactive. So using it with Ambirex, you won't get like the full power of Shiny. So I'm not sure if you'd want to go that route, but yeah, you can. Actually, you can as well use HTML widgets. So currently we have support for it, just static HTML widgets. They'll just work fine. So in most cases, you just go for like a front-end framework. Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, anonymous question asker, for the question. All right. I have one for Dylan here that I will highlight that says, can an LLM be trusted to determine its own certainty score? How reliable has that been?
Yeah, this is a great question. So I saw some research showing, right, that LLMs tend to be overconfident, and I'm not surprised. So I think two things. You can ask it for its like level of certainty, and I think it's a good thing to do. And it's also good to frame it in uncertainty, like tell it, hey, exercise caution, how uncertain are you about this task? Because if you put it in like how certain you are, it's going to be a little bit more biased, be like, yeah, I'm doing a good job. Like, so you'll get more of a signal if you're like, hey, tell me if it's not, if you're uncertain, if this task is not easy. So it's not a perfect signal, right? Like we can correlate the uncertainty scores with, actual correct classifications, and it's not going to be a perfect correlation, but it is a significant, signal. And so you can use it as a way to like review the responses and start to get an idea of where to look, like especially if you have a huge data set. If you look at those uncertain responses, you're going to start finding it's going to help filter through to actually get like good ones to review. So yeah.
The challenges are many. Thank you, Dylan.
Mhm.
Thank you. I see a question for Gina. I'm going to go repost into the Discord, but it was, is there any appetite for interactivity in ggplot2? And if there are any extensions that do this, I may just be unfamiliar. They said, I'm a huge fan of HighCharter and Plotly for the interactive elements, and it'd be great to see options using ggplot.
Yeah, so one of the presenters that we want to have is David Goels, and we've been in touch with him. I think that that is going to be on our schedule soon. Is the GG IRAF? I don't really. Some of the packages are hard to pronounce. I can put that a link to his package, and that allows for I think some interactivity with not too much difficulty.
Yes, I say GG-IRAF as well. I know. I think it's G giraffe. There's definitely
Is it
giraffe on
giraffe?
the hex sticker.
Yes.
It is. But I started saying GG-IRAF a long time ago, and I don't think I can break that habit.
Actually, on the topic of packages, I was curious, what is everybody's favorite package or hex sticker? Because this is my new favorite with these pancakes.
The stacks. Stacks are always good. If anybody doesn't know the stacks lore, there's a new stacks every year, a new stacks sticker with different fruit on it. Does anybody want to go around here with their favorite hex stickers? Gina, what's yours while we're talking with you?
Oh, my
Or
favorite
a
hex
favorite.
sticker.
Doesn't have to be the favorite.
It's ggplot2. Of course.
That's cheating. Rich, how about you? Do you have a favorite?
Yeah, I'm trying, like, I love the ones that are holographic, and I think DD Player has one, and it also has the seal on it. So
Oh,
animated
yeah.
holographic one, my favorite.
I have some of the holographic Absalon ones as well, and they are so dang pretty. All of the Absalon ones are gorgeous. Kennedy, how about you? Do you have a favorite hex?
Nope, not gonna lie.
No. No favorite. John?
Yeah, I've done a few myself for obscure packages no one's ever heard of. But the one from Package Down, the box-like thingy, is pretty nice. It's pretty nice. I've got
I
one here
agree.
somewhere, but I'm not going to scramble look for it.
It's like a cardboard box, right?
Indeed. That's what I remember at least.
I think you're right. I have it behind me. I really like it as well. And Dylan, how about you?
So I guess since it's relevant to my talk, I do really like Elmer and I also like Simon's package cow vitals. So they've been like trying to like create some art where they're together, where they're like this little bear with a stethoscope is like trying to find the bear and like diagnose or the elephant to yeah. And I also really like the one package that I made called Red Quack, and it's like a play on DuckDB and Redcap, and it has like a little bill on set. I'll put it in the chat. So shameless self-plug there.
Super cute. I love ducks. Special Libby fact. Ducks are just my favorite. Everyone has like a stuffed animal when they grow up. Mine was a duck. My favorite, I think, is the old school McGritter pipe sticker, like with the Sesame Nespa Peep, like the little, yeah, that one's getting more rare these days. Okay, let's move on and have another question because we have one for Ryszard, and that is reconfiguring the vanity URL to switch from blue to green. Are there any challenges to user sessions that could impact the end user experience?
So that's a good question. From my tests, users didn't seem to be disrupted. They might be connected to the previous version, but the thing that you do need to be careful about is if you reconfigure environment variables, because if you do it, then, for example, in the UI, you would get a warning that, hey, just be aware that if you change an environment variable, all processes will be terminated and started up again. So yeah, that's the place where you should keep that in mind.
Okay, but at least you get a warning. Thank you.
Thank you. And John, I have a question for you. Someone asked anonymously, for someone who is used to Shiny's reactivity, what kind of mindset shift do I have to use Ambiorix? What challenges might I encounter with my assumptions?
It's rather different. It's a good question. It's very different, but I would argue that Ambiorix is rather easier in that sense. So at least one of the I build Shiny app almost for a living now, and one of the difficulties with the reactivity, though it comes with plenty of convenience, is that you have to hold in your mind constantly quite a few moving pieces and reactives. What happens in the back end, how it reacts on the front end, etc. And with Ambiorix, it's basically a bit like how it works is a bit like Plumber. So you just have to think of the user makes a request to your server, and you just send a response, and you don't have to think a bit. There are no moving pieces around and things to keep in mind, essentially. So in that sense, it is much easier. I would argue, at least.
Ooh, so maybe less of a challenge and more of like this might feel a little bit easier in that way, because reactive programming is so challenging in and of itself. It's hard to wrap your brain around, especially when your apps get really big. Thank you,
I think
John.
so. Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
I don't want to ramble, but real quick, it's the problem to me. So reactivity is great for what generally people call SPAs, or single page applications. So, and we use plenty of them daily. I think things like Instagram or Google Maps, when you think of it, these are all single page applications, and they are with a reactive backend. It makes sense.
Right.
But I think as soon as in Shiny you start having too many tabs, and too many, I don't know, too much business logic, too many different things moving on, and it becomes a bit too complicated. And I think a traditional framework, a bit like Plumber or Ambiorix, is better suited.
Yeah, when you got lots and lots of pages.
Mhm.
All right, awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
I have got a question for Dylan. Dylan, are you ready? It is, you mentioned frontier models. What models do you find work best for image versus text classification? Which ones are not good?
Okay, so I've only really used the vision models for this like kind of testing I did for this presentation, so I'm not an expert. I think all of their vision models are going to be pretty basic. Like you could even see we quickly ran into the limitations with the vision model in this use case for the classification of the iris flowers. But I know
It's
they all,
ChatGPT, right?
yes.
Okay, just making sure that we all know the context.
I did try it with Anthropic's Claude model as well, ran into the same issue. I didn't try Gemini, but they all have vision support at this point, so I would play around with it. Text models, I think they're kind of all pretty good. I like OpenAI's GPT because it's cheaper and performs usually as good as Claude with like the structured data tasks. But of course, I like Claude more for coding and some of it's kind of like ethical um, uh, foundations. So yeah, you just kind of have to explore, and also you can classify with different models. And like if you don't have, like in the presentation, I showed examples where we had the true classification to get to look at like whether the LLM was giving us a correct response, and you can actually use just different LLMs too to see if they perform differently on the task, and use that as a signal of why aren't these LLMs agreeing on my classification.
Yeah.
Libby, I think someone was asking to see the mug that you were drinking out of.
Okay, I was gonna wait. All the awkward silence after saying thanks to Dylan. I wanted to show you guys my cute mug that says I just want to be normal with a skewed distribution on it. But I think that my screen might be mirrored. I can't tell. Can you read it?
I can read it. Yeah.
It's super cute. It's one of my favorite stats mugs because I have many. All right.
Awesome. I see an anonymous question for Gina, and it was, you mentioned feeling like an outsider to the ggplot extender community. What drew you to ggplot in the first place? Did you use a lot of ggplot in your job at the time?
Yeah, so in the first place, I went to a workshop that that was on ggplot2, and I think that that was really foundational to show me how the pieces fit together, and that things are so the orthogonality of the different components can be expressed that way. And yeah, I was using ggplot2 in my job and just saw I would get I would come to a point where I would be frustrated with what was on offer in base ggplot2, and I saw other extensions. I think one of our first presenters was the author of ggbump, and I think that with that, I realized, oh, this is just a ggplot2 user that's also at the edge of what they want to do easily with ggplot2, and they figured out extension, and so seeing that experience, I was like, well, maybe I can get into that too. And some of the cases were really basic. My point of entry was on this means question was I don't want to compute those means myself. I see ggplot2 computing stuff all the time, in making histograms and stuff. So I know you can do it, and let's just get into it and figure that out. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, I agree. I love it when I can just have ggplot do something for me and I don't have to make another column and compute everything and do pre-processing. So I love that too. All right, we have a question for Ryszard. It is here. It is, have you ever used blue versus green deployment for A/B testing a new feature?
I have not. I would use feature flags for that. And yeah, one thing to keep in mind is if you want statistical significance, you might need a bigger sample size. And if you have such a large user group, then first of all, congratulations. And but if you have a smaller user group, then I wouldn't call it a full A/B test, but sort of doing user testing with two different versions to get a sense of what UI might be better. So I would get on a call with different users because the user group was small enough where I could talk to most of them and present some with one version and others with another version, and that way sort of learn which option might be better. And their feature flags and breaking down the option of, hey, if this person belongs to this group or to this group could be a way to do that.
Yep, I love it. I don't know what feature flex is. Is it a package? Is it software?
I mean, there is a package called like that, but it's also the general method that was also mentioned during the talk. That was the second strategy.
Oh, okay. I must have missed it. That's one that I don't know about. So if anybody has any more info about it, feel free to put it in the Discord chat so we can all talk about it.
So for either Kennedy or John, there were a few people asking about how do you deploy Ambiorix?
Oh, good question.
Okay,
And who unmuted first? It's Kennedy.
Kennedy.
Like the Jeopardy buzzer.
Yeah, so you have several options for how to deploy your Ambiorix application. For someone just getting into deployment, the easiest is probably using shinyapps.io. We actually have documentation for all those methods that you can use, but obviously the easiest shinyapps.io route. It works well with Ambiorix. You just have to, set an environment variable, and then that's it. Or rather grab an environment variable. We have it well documented, but synapse.io is the easiest. The second easiest would be Shiny Server. Yeah, you can actually deploy just the same way you deploy Shiny applications is probably the same way you're going to deploy Ambiorix applications. And in fact, it works well with Posit Connect to and Workbench, and we're actually working on the documentations for those. Yeah, but for people who don't who are more familiar with servers, you can go for anything from AWS, DigitalOcean, GCP, all those options. Yes.
Awesome. And I was just trying to find at the same time the documentation you mentioned. So if you get a chance and could share that in the Discord, that'd be great.
Okay, sure, sure.
Thank you.
Yay, thank you. Alrighty, we have a question for Dylan. If I can find it on my screen, there it is. It was, what advice would you give someone who doesn't know where to start with LLMs in R and they just want to get their feet wet?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think just start with Elmer, like just start up a chat, start looking at how to programmatically chat. So, first you'll see that it's just like sort of like basic, prompt and response. And then you can start to see how then you could, like paste in other text information or provide like data to it programmatically and start thinking about those sorts of scenarios, which then will get you into like, okay, well, I actually want that data to be structured. Actually, I have like, want to make multiple requests. I think one example is like, use a weather API, like pull some weather data from a weather API and like have the Elmer chat provide like this nice, short couple sentence description about what the weather's like at a certain location. So just play with like simple examples like that and look at the Elmer documentation.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, I see people were talking about the elephant in the Elmer package being so cute too. To go look at that hex again. Question for Gina. Somebody had asked, for someone who's mostly proficient in ggplot2 but new to creating packages, what's the first step you'd recommend to get started? Are there certain extension packages that you consider really good, like a good example to follow?
Yeah, so I think the place to start is like working on the extension itself and making sure that like that is sufficient motivation to get into packaging. But I have some of my own packages that would get you to like a minimal package too. So I think a question that I ask myself is a lot is like, what can I do without? So if I can provide maybe a link.
I'm going to put the recipes in the chat as well because I think that that's maybe a good place to start.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think like kind of a good sequence of events is work on the extension mechanism itself and see if I don't know, come to the group maybe and see if that doesn't already exist, ask in the discussion, see if it's worthwhile to package that up. Yeah. Oh, I'll thank you.
I was curious if extensions is something that exists for a lot of packages. Like I've heard that for ggplot2 and Cordo. But is that with a lot of packages?
I think less so. ggplot lends itself to extending because of geoms, really. So like you have this structure that's so well defined that you're able to add on to it and make those things do other things. That's a good question. Does anybody know? Anybody in the chat, feel free to chime in if you know of packages that extend other packages besides ggplot and besides Corto add-ins. We'll think about it.
Oh yeah, so it's called add-ins for Cordo? Not extensions.
I think they are called extensions.
Okay.
Sam Parmar has so many of them. Go check his out if you haven't. He works at Pfizer and he's amazing. He's very prolific in the Corto extension space. If you dream it up, he probably has tried to make it. All right, I have a question for Ryszard. It is, okay, it says, not directly related, but do you have any insights about handling HTTP authentication with apps hosted in Posit Connect or authentication with Posit Connect in general? For example, apps that require calls to internal-only APIs. That was very long. I'm going to put that in the Discord for us.
Okay, so in terms of what's available within Posit Connect, so in terms of just authentication, you get some things out of the box. And that link I mentioned with the session object and getting the username in groups, that's part of that. In terms of calling other internal APIs, yeah, I'm not 100% sure here, but I think there was an update in Posit Connect because before you would get the Connect API key for the publisher. But I think, and yeah, fact check me on that, please, is now there's an option where you could get the an API key that would present itself as the user accessing your app. So you could sort of forward it over to your internal IP that's also hosted on Connect and that way access it. But yeah, that one might need a fact check.
All right, no worries. Somebody will help us fact check in the chat.
Okay, let's see. This one says, Kennedy, I've worked on huge and unwieldy Shiny apps as well with so many tabs. Are there any other challenges besides, oops, it just jumped. Besides,
Sorry, that was me.
okay, besides needing API endpoints that Ambiorix helped you solve, did using it help you learn more JavaScript? And I know that's long, so I'll put it here in the Discord as well.
Yeah, that's a good one. Definitely, you can't use Ambiorix and not have to learn JavaScript. So yes, I had to learn more JavaScript. The other thing it taught me, I think for me at that time, the multi-pages and the APIs were the big things. That was like my immediate problem. So at that time, that was where all my focus was. Yeah.
I love it. And I wanted to pull John in while we are in the John and Kennedy zone, because one of the questions in Slido actually matches something that was just asked in Discord. And it says, I think you mentioned plugins for Ambiorix. What plugins are there? What kinds of extra things do they let you do with Ambiorix?
A good question. Yes, I can pull that up. We do have a series of plugins. So they're essentially middleware. Most of them what we call middleware, which is something that you can discover if you look up a bit about Ambiorix and this type of frameworks. But essentially, you can customize the logger. We have things that will, for instance, minify the HTML that you send back as a response so that you make it smaller, loads faster. You can use different engines if you want for the rendering of your HTML. We have, they're not known in the R ecosystem, but elsewhere there are Jade and Pug, things like that. We have the things for security, CSRF tokens, these sort of things that you can, basically, they work like plugins because you install it, you just do library and then use something, one function call, and it's just integrated into your app.
Okay, so it is a library call. It's not like a browser plugin or something.
No, not like that. Sorry. No.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks for that.
Okay.
Yeah, we also have a load balancer too. You are talking
Oh,
about
true. We have a load balancer for that as well. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you. All right. Rachel's up.
Sorry, scrolling through.
No, that's okay. I am too. We're all scrolling through questions.
Connor had asked a great question for Ryszard. It is, can Shiny feature flags be used as a security feature, or can users get to the obscured UI element by inspecting the web page in the browser or editing the JS, which I'm assuming is JavaScript?
It could be part of the solution. So as I mentioned, the feature flag is just a fancy name for an if statement, because like feature flags doesn't provide you with, because I assume you're asking about user access and that the user can only access a specific part of the app. Then that needs to be handled, like for example, by Posit Connect. And in terms of if there will be able to find things in the UI, like here you need to, like it depends how you write your Shiny code. Because if you, like for example, in the server side, you can check if that user is the user to whom you want to show your content and insert the UI, or within the render UI statement, you can check who they are and either render nothing or what they're supposed to see if they are a person that can access that. So part of the could be part of the solution. And yeah, you need to structure your code so it works the way you want it to.
Nice. Yeah. So it could be a little bit of data governance, maybe. You only get to see this table if you're this type of user and you can't see it otherwise.
And you can have different layers, like one parts of the UI. But for example, if you show the data, you might have like data scoping, like an administrator might want to see everything, but you might have some custom filtering logic. And in there, feature flags could also be used, but yeah, you might as well write an if statement and check the session object yourself.
Right. Awesome. Thank you. All right, let's head over to Dylan. Dylan Noor asked a question, and I will put it in the chat as well. It was for the disease classification that you had in your presentation. How unbalanced was the data between disease types? Influenza-esque viruses have greater representation versus malaria, etc. Secondly, do you think that impacted the performance?
Yeah, this was a good question. This was just a test data set, so it's not necessarily representing like the frequency of diseases in the real world. So I think all 24 diseases had something like 200 data points for each. So it was balanced. It's just an example data set to test for machine learning models that are doing kind of natural language processing algorithms. So kind of a perfect fit for the LLM to also take its stab at, which it did not do very good at it. So I would not use that, but it's good to know.
Good to know. Thank you.
Gina, I see a question, an insider question. Do you know if there'll be a ggplot3?
I've only heard that mentioned once. I don't know anything.
But the question I wanted to ask you is, what are some of the recurring themes around challenges that ggplot extenders face? This person said, I've been thinking about making an extension package, but I'm nervous.
I think that because the user API is sometimes so nice, then we don't kind of know the building blocks beneath the surface. Like those aren't super exposed to us. So I think just getting some exposure to those through resources like the easy recipes and then the extension vignette and extension chapter is probably like a good starting point. So you're just going like one level down.
Awesome. Thank you. Alrighty. We have a question from Umair. Hey, Umair, how's it going? It's for Kennedy. What front-end frameworks do you recommend for our users who are new to Ambiorix?
Okay, that's a good one. So most our users will be coming from Shiny. So definitely for CSS frameworks, Bootstrap would be a really good starting point. You won't feel the difficulty, like it will just be like using Shiny only that you have to build the action buttons and the text inputs yourself, but it will feel natural, if I may say. John doesn't like Bootstrap, so another container would be Tailwind CSS, which is really good. So as far as the CSS frameworks are concerned, Tailwind is really, really good. Yeah. For JavaScript frameworks, I personally go for HTMX. It's not a recent framework. It's been there for a while. It's just that we've known it recently. But yeah, that's what I go for. It will feel a lot like Shiny in that it's like saying when the page loads, I want you to make this request. So same kind of way you use reactives in Shiny, but now with HTMX. Yeah. So those are my recommendations. John?
Yeah, sorry. It's because Shiny comes bundled with the front end, essentially. That's why it's so easy to get started. But then you're tied with Bootstrap. So one of the advantages of Ambiorix is that you can choose whatever framework you want. But the problem with asking this question to Kennedy is that he loves the Bootstrap, so he uses Bootstrap anyways. But yeah, that's I think an advantage, and as Kennedy put it in his slide, also an inconvenience you can think of. There's no just text input that will work out of the box or action button that will work out of the box. There's a bit more work, but at least you can make the application a tad more unique, I would argue.
Yeah, that's true. I want to throw out my favorite UI that you can use in Shiny, which is Fomantic, which is a port of the Semantic UI, I think. All of these are JavaScript, but Rish, I mean, Epsilon has many of them, right? Like Blueprint and some that I can't remember the name of.
Blueprint, Shiny Fluent, and yeah, Shiny Semantic.
Yes. Okay. So Shiny Semantic, Shiny Fluent, and Blueprint. So other like frameworks that you can use that make your app look different that are not the standard Bootstrap, just in case anybody wants to go investigate. I've had a lot of fun with Fomantic.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
Dylan, a question for you. Does it take a lot of iterating before you get a prompt that will correctly identify things? How much of the analysis do you think is the prompt figuring out part?
I think it's a lot. I think iterating is really good. And you could see that creating this presentation, I did a lot of iterating to find out what the limits of the LLMs are. Like you can see Simon doing that openly on his blog as well. I think what I'm learning though is you can reduce the amount of iteration by starting small, like using simple prompting that's really powerful, that's using like really trying to identify what you need. Because a lot of times the LLM just kind of overrides it with its own prompting and desires. So really, if you can focus in on like what are the edge cases that you need to handle, what are some of maybe the tricky parts of the task you're asking to help kind of handhold, I think focus on that. So look at where the limitations are, focus on the edge cases, prompt around those, but don't try to tell it like, you are Bob the Builder building this website. Like, just get rid of that. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
I love that. Okay, Gina, I have a question here that says, what is your personal favorite ggplot2 extension package, or just one that you like, or favorite creation story behind one? It says, do most people say they make an extension package because they couldn't get ggplot to do what they wanted? Like, since you've heard so many creation stories and motivations.
Creation stories. I mean, ggBump always comes to mind, just because I think the focus is so narrow, and yeah, that extender, he doesn't have like a huge library of extension stuff, but it is like I always see people using it. It's like so useful for the world. So it's like kind of an inspiring reference. I mean, I just think,
too.
yeah, all the stories are great. I feel like every meeting, I'm like, this is my favorite meeting so far.
All my children are my favorite. Yeah, Mike just put ggBump into the chat, and I will say I co-hosted VisBuzz in June, and one of the plots that had to be recreated in VisBuzz was a bump chart, and everybody who was not using R had a hard time because ggBump does a really unique thing. Like bump charts are not a standard thing that you can make. There was just a package that came out, I think it might have been from Joseph Barbier, I'm not sure, that does bump charts in Python, but like not a lot of other packages do that. It's very unique and awesome.
Now
Okay.
I'm going to look at what bump charts mean. Thank you for sharing.
Bump charts are amazing. I agree. Okay, let's head.
John, there was a question for you that was, why Express.js? Could Ambiorix be adapted to use other frameworks? Curious what you liked about it.
I try and be as clear as I can, but that seems to be a misunderstanding that comes up very often. It's not built on Express.js. The syntax is inspired by it. And if you take the hello world, we should, I think, show it on the website. If you take the hello world for Ambiorix and the hello world for Express.js. Although it's a JavaScript framework made for Node.js, the syntax did look virtually the same. You replace the dollar signs in R with dots, and you've got the same application almost. And so essentially, one day I was trying to write an application. I think I ended up on Express.js, which at the time was extremely popular. And I don't know, I don't use it today, but the syntax clicked. The way you compose your application with Express.js clicked with me, and I thought I'd try to do something like that in R.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. I've got a question for Ryszard, and it is, there we go. What types of automated tests or validation checks have you found most useful or most effective in catching those messier edge cases issues? I'm sorry if I read that wrong. Let me put it into the chat here.
So if it's about messier edge cases that are hard to figure out, I would say I do remember a case where I was working on an app, and yeah, we knew what like features are critical. So those need to work all the time because otherwise the app makes no sense. And like I don't know, think of an e-commerce website, like the critical path is put something in the basket, go to checkout and buy it. So try to find that path for your app and set up an end-to-end test, for example, with Shiny Test 2. And this might uncover some edge cases you might not anticipate. Like I do remember a case where I updated one package that was a dependency of a dependency, so I didn't even use it directly. But the test caught it because it broke part of this critical path. And the other is use the deployment strategies, because that's where you'll find those unknown unknowns. Of course, like other strategies that traditional ones also work, like ask for code review, like your teammate might figure out there's an edge case. Or I also heard about cases where someone would take production traffic and would like simulate it again on a development version, and that way that can also be used. Or I heard about people generating random inputs, and I think the term is monkey testing, so you can also apply that strategy to try to find what's those messier edge cases.
Awesome. Thank you. It's always hard.
I forget how much I appreciate having a second monitor until I'm in a hotel room on my laptop and I'm looking at Slido and Discord and trying to see everyone's face. Dylan, there was a question for you you said you used the LLM to extract features to tell it what features to use. Can you describe that? Do you give the LLM the images and ask it to determine which features are most characteristic of visual differences? I'm going to put this question into the Discord too. Then do a whole new prompt cycle using those features in your prompts. Let me put this.
You can do that. I don't know if it helps or not. Putting the features you extract as a new prompt. The reason I showed it, and I think it can be useful to look at, is because it gives you a glimpse into kind of like how the model is thinking about the task. So and also if like, in this case, I wanted to know, can it like pick up on characteristics of the flower that we would have in like the iris data set? And it can to some degree, but there's like so many subtleties, like relative size and little, just like there's really small unit differences in the size of the flowers or proportions, and it really can't pick up on those. It's like, this is, you know, a purple flower and has like short leaves and is, you know, kind of smallish. Like it'll focus on those things. So use like the features as like a glimpse into the LLM, kind of like you would just looking at your data set and what features it has that you're going to use to predict some data.
Thank you. Awesome. All right. Gina, I have another one that is maybe a favorite question, but not really. It's, what's the most underrated ggplot extension? Also, part 2 of that question, what's the best extension you've seen for scientists? I like that question. Hot seat,
These
Gina,
are
sorry.
hard questions. Yeah, I prefaced my talk saying I wasn't going to talk about the universe of extension. I mean, I would like really to hear from this Gigi Signif, I think, package. I think that seems like kind of a simple idea, but really it like it compares groups and says if there's significance between them. I think that looks really well done, and it seems like really relevant to scientists. Can try to find the link to that. Is there another question?
Awesome. I think that was it. You got them both.
That's it.
Underrated and good for scientists. I will say my vote for underrated, Gigi Highlight is so good. I love it. Go play with it if you haven't. If you want a really easy way to be like, I want to highlight this one thing in my Gigi plot. Gigi Highlight's great. Thanks, Gina.
Libby, I see there was a question from someone who is trying to access the GitHub repos, but they can't access Discord at work. And so I was
Uh-oh.
if after we could maybe share all the GitHub repos in Slido somehow, or like ask a question, like what are the GitHub repos, and then put the replies.
That's a good question. Can we put them in the Zoom chat? Because you and I can post in the Zoom chat.
Oh, that's true.
If we are able to, and then they should be able to see them. So let's try that. And if that works, then amazing. And
Okay.
if not, email maybe conf@posit.co and put the subject line, this is for Libby. And that can get forwarded to me maybe, and then we can help you. I'm sorry that you can't use Discord on your work computer. That stinks.
Let's
All
see.
right.
Sorry, jumping through.
It's okay. While Rachel is reading questions in Slido, I'm going to go put the links for all the talks into the chat.
There are quite a few questions here for you, Dylan, about the LLM. So, Dylan, do you think it's safe to use the LLM you demonstrated in our day-to-day work, or would you recommend another way of integrating LLMs that ensures better accuracy?
I guess it depends what your day-to-day work is. I think as a programmer, it's super helpful in starting ideas or completing code when I know what I want, but I don't want to have to search like the dplyr docs or the ggplot docs to write code. I think that's something we can all relate to if we are writing code in R. And I think for this topic of classification, I think it's one that I would tread very carefully. I think it's cool because Elmer is extending these chat models to be able to, do data manipulation on large data sets and to replicate things that machine learning models that would be difficult to create can do. So I think it opens up a door there. And I just kind of wanted to show that it opens up that door and it can be good at it. And there might be useful things we learn from it. For example, when I compared it to another machine learning model and that's being used in production, and I realized, oh, there are some blind spots in this model. This model has some biases, and the LLM actually highlighted some of those. So I think in that situation, it's actually could be a huge benefit. So it really depends on the use case, and I think it's just something we all have to kind of explore and find out what works. And I just say, be careful, look closely, iterate and ask the hard questions, and look at your data.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, we have a question that is either for John or Kennedy, depending on who knows about this topic. It's for Mike K. Smith, and it was Ambiorix funded via an R Consortium ISC grant? If so, how was that process, and would you recommend that to other people? I think it was funded by an R Consortium grant. John or Kennedy, who knows more about this topic?
I'll start and I'll let Kennedy close. Essentially, I created a package, I can't remember, 2020, 2021. There was no funding up until we've had a very small amount of funding for Kennedy. I can't remember. Late last year or something like that. I'll let Kennedy answer that one.
Yeah, they gave us funding last year. Well, I'm supposed to work on it this year. We've been working on it. So the process, it wasn't that difficult. The only difficult bit is you have to explain why this package matters. And of course, it has to have like a wide effect on the R community. And the second thing was like stating how you are going to achieve what you said. Like it's like saying, okay, so this is what I want to make or to improve in Amburix. And then you have now to say, how are you going to do that? And what are the timelines? So it wasn't really difficult per se.
Can I add just a quick follow-up question, Kennedy or John? I know you mentioned like working with the team to maybe be able to deploy to Posit Connect, but I wasn't sure if I misheard that. I was checking out the deployment options documentation, but I see Stephen had asked, can you deploy and host an Amburix app in Connect?
Yes, you can, both
Okay.
Connect and Workbench. It's just that we haven't, well, we are working on the docs. They are not
Okay,
yet. Yes.
great. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. I had another one for Dylan. Dylan, everybody really needs to know about the LLM stuff. One of them was, wait, we gotta find it. Okay, there it is from Sivani. Do you have any advice for testing these LLM categorizations? I'm thinking of use cases where there are no good data sets with existing categorizations or when our own classifications may be inconsistent.
This, I think, gets to kind of a crux of using LLMs for classification. But what I go to is I go back to like the gold standard of like testing for classification, which is that you should be testing on new data to see the, the correct, like how like the proportion of correct classifications to the incorrect ones. And when that's not possible, I think LLMs do allow for some flexibility, right? So we can use like uncertainty scores, looking at the asking for the reasoning or the features it's looking at to understand what it's thinking. But when we have a lot of data, that's hard. So you might like sort through and just look at really all the cases where the LLM is uncertain, maybe run some stats on that to see the mean uncertainty, the deviation, to understand like how difficult the LLM thought this task was, run that against our own expectations, review some of those difficult to classify responses. Another technique you can use is you can use multiple LLMs as raters or different classifiers, and try it that way to see if there are any disagreements or divergences in the different LLM models. I'd also look to see if there are existing machine learning models that are intended for your specific data. So they're trained on data just like yours. Now, those might not be perfect either, but now you have multiple tools in your toolkit that you can start to use to converge on what a true response might mean if you don't feel like you can go through and make that determination for every single data point.
Yeah, that's rough. Sometimes
Mhm.
things are not mutually exclusive either. All right,
Mhm.
thank you so much for that question, and thanks, Dylan, for answering. And now we are 2 minutes from the top of the hour, so I will say it's time to wrap up. I will go ahead and I did see, Martine, you had asked about the links in Discord as well. I will put them all back in Discord. No worries. Give me a moment to do that. But I wanted to say thank you to everybody. Thanks, Rachel. Thanks, all of our speakers. You did such an amazing job today. And I hope that you join us for virtual trivia, which happens in half an hour, everybody.
Thank
Thanks,
you all so
everybody.
much. Looking forward to chatting with everyone on the Discord too. And I'm curious to everybody here, like when you're at a conference and you're learning so many new things, how do you get started after the conference as well? Like how do you figure out what to prioritize? Because I'm just learning about so many new packages and just everything coming in. So would love to learn from you all over there too.
Yep. Give Rachel all your tips. I take notes in Notion for all of the talks that I attend, and I am looking forward to lots of note taking tomorrow if I can keep up with it on Discord. All right, Gina, Dylan, Ryszard, Kennedy, John, thank you so much. You did amazing, and hopefully we see you all at trivia. Goodbye, everybody. I'll see you in Discord. Everybody go take a break.